But it is true our borders are out of control. It is also true that this has been a situation on our borders back through a number of administrations. And I supported this bill. I believe in the idea of amnesty for those who have put down roots and who have lived here, even though some time back they may have entered illegally. With regard to the employer sanctions, we must have that, not only to ensure that we can identify the illegal aliens, but also, while some keep protesting about what it would do to employers, there is another employer that we shouldn't be so concerned about. And these are employers down through the years who have encouraged the illegal entry into this country, because they then hire these individuals and hire them at starvation wages and with none of the benefits that we think are normal and natural for workers in our country, and the individuals can't complain because of their illegal status. We don't think that those people should be allowed to continue operating free. And this was why the provisions that we had in with regard to sanctions and so forth. And I'm going to do everything I can, and all of us in the administration are, to join in again, when Congress is back at it, to get an immigration bill that will give us once again control of our borders.
All Americans, not only in the states most heavily affected, but in every place in this country, are rightly disturbed by the large numbers of illegal aliens entering our country. The jobs they hold might otherwise be held by citizens or legal immigrants. The public service they use impose burdens on our taxpayers. That's why our administration has moved aggressively to secure our borders more, by hiring a record number of new border guards, by deporting twice as many criminal aliens as ever before, by cracking down on illegal hiring, by barring welfare benefits to illegal aliens. In the budget I will present to you, we will try to do more to speed the deportation of illegal aliens who are arrested for crimes, to better identify illegal aliens in the workplace, as recommended by the commission headed by former Congresswoman Barbara Jordan. We are a nation of immigrants, but we are also a nation of laws. It is wrong and ultimately self-defeating for a nation of immigrants to permit the kind of abuse of our immigration laws we have seen in recent years, and we must do more to stop it.
Please be seated. The system is broken because there are people who are exploiting human beings for material gain. There are coyotes, those are human smugglers, charging decent people large sums of money to come and work to put food on the table for their families. There's a document forgery industry in place because the system is broken. And the two go hand in hand. I believe that now's the time that you cannot fully enforce the border so long as people are trying to sneak in this country to do jobs Americans aren't doing. You can try. But doesn't it make sense to help the Border Patrol do their job by saying, if you're going to come and do a job, there is a legal way to do it, so you don't have to sneak across in the first place. There are so-called innkeepers providing substandard hovels. There are some who, I don't know if they say this explicitly, but they certainly allege or hint that probably the best way to deal with 11 to 12 million people is to get them to leave the country. That's impossible. That's the kind of statement that sometimes happens in the political process, aimed to inflame passion, but it's completely unrealistic. It's not going to happen. This bill addresses that issue. For those concerned, the president and his class. This has been the American story for decades and decades. What this bill is not amnesty. but it recognizes that it is impossible for this country to rout people out of our society and, quote, send them home. It's not going to happen. God bless. Thank you.
I continue to believe that the best way to solve this problem is by working together to pass that kind of common sense law. But until that happens, there are actions I have the legal authority to take as president, the same kinds of actions taken by Democratic and Republican presidents before me, that will help make our immigration system more fair and more just. Tonight, I'm announcing those actions. First, we'll build on our progress at the border with additional resources for our law enforcement personnel so that they can stem the flow of illegal crossings and speed the return of those who do cross over. Second, I'll make it easier and faster for high-skilled immigrants, graduates, and entrepreneurs to stay and contribute to our economy, as so many business leaders have proposed. Third, we'll take steps to deal responsibly with the millions of undocumented immigrants who already live in our country. I want to say more about this third issue because it generates the most passion and controversy. Even as we are a nation of immigrants, we're also a nation of laws. Undocumented workers broke our immigration laws, and I believe that they must be held accountable, especially those who may be dangerous. That's why over the past 6 years, deportations of criminals are up 80%. And that's why we're going to keep focusing enforcement resources on actual threats to our security. Felons, not families. Criminals, not children. Gang members, not a mom who's working hard to provide for her kids. We'll prioritize, just like law enforcement does every day. But even as we focus on deporting criminals, the fact is millions of immigrants in every state, of every race and nationality, still live here illegally. And let's be honest, tracking down, rounding up, and deporting millions of people isn't realistic.
But they came in, excuse me, they came in illegally. They are here illegally.
But how would you do the logistics of it? How would you do the logistics?
Two things. First
okay,
of all,
how do you take 11 million people and make them leave?
Fine, you'll do it. It's all a package. Number one, we're going to build a wall. We're going to have people come into the country. I agree,
okay.
But let's go through it. We're going to build a wall. It's going to be a real wall. It's going to be a wall that's powerful and that people aren't going to be going under or up or around or anything else. It's going to be a real wall. And we're going to have a door in the wall. People are going to come into the country legally. And we're going to hopefully get a lot of people coming in, and they're all going to come in legally. We're going to get rid of the bad ones, because we have some really bad ones in here right now. And you know that, gang members in L.A. You look at some of these gangs, they're 100% illegal immigrants. They're going to be gone, okay? And they're going to be gone fast. And they're not going to be in our prisons for us to take care of them. Our prisons are bursting with illegals right now.
What about the law-abiding majority? That's
now
the big
you have
question.
people that came in illegally,
yes,
and they're called illegal immigrants, and they're here illegally. They're going to have to go, and they're going to have to come back in legally. And otherwise, we don't have a country. And if we don't do that, we don't have a country. They're going to have to go, and they're going to have to come in legally. They're going to have to come in through a system. You have right now, Aaron, millions of people that want to come into the country. Millions. They're on a waiting list. They've gone through documentation. They've gone through all sorts of things, and they're waiting on a list, in some cases, for years.
Yes.
And it's very unfair to them. It's very unfair. Now, you can do the work visa thing in terms of the grapes, because I have people, friends with the grapes, and they may need people. We can do lots of different things.
For the agriculture.
But to come here and stay here, you have to come into the country legally. We either have a country or we don't. If you go to Mexico, Aaron, if you want to be a citizen of Mexico, and let's assume you're a perfect person, okay? You could not become a citizen of Mexico. It's the hardest place just about in the country, in the world, to become a citizen of.
But the question I'm asking, though, is how do you take 11 million people and make them leave?
You do it through a process. You do it in a very humane manner.
But they're not going to want to leave. You're going to have to hire a lot of people to find them and get them over the border, right?
They're here illegally. If a person comes across the border and you send them right back, the Border Patrol sends them right back, There's not a big court situation. They send them back. They hear
Yes, but what about the guy already living in Detroit?
Excuse me. What's the difference between somebody that comes over the border for 2 days, he gets caught, and they bring him back, and somebody that comes over the border, he's here for a year, and you bring him back? There is no difference. What I'm saying is,
logistically, there's a difference in terms of finding them and getting them to go.
Well,
that's what costs the money, and you have to have the people. That's what I'm trying to understand what you do.
You can also do E-Verify. You do know that. You can do E-Verify, where the employers aren't going to be hiring them, and then everyone's going to go back. That's one way of doing it so that you don't have the problem. You do E-Verify, where an employer has a big problem if he hires these people, and they're going to all go back of their own volition. And that's one way.